The metal walls of the Galactic Diplomatic Station hummed with quiet energy as Maya Washington walked through the long corridors. Her brown skin caught the artificial light that tried to copy Earth's sun, but never quite got it right. At 28 years old, she had already spent 3 years working among aliens who looked at humans like they were children, playing dress-up at an adult party. Maya carried her data pad close to her chest as she hurried toward Conference Room 7. Today was the big day. The Zephyrian Empire and the Crystalline Collective were finally going to sit down and talk peace after 200 years of war. Every news feed in the galaxy was watching. Every government had sent their best people to witness history, but Maya was just the translator. The person who made sure the words came out right when the big shots talked. Nobody expected her to do anything important. The conference room was huge, with a ceiling that stretched up so high it made her neck hurt to look at it. Round tables were arranged in a circle, each one designed for different alien body types. The Zephyrians sat on one side, their blue-gray skin shifting colors like oil on water. Their ambassador, Crix Tal 9, had 4 arms and eyes that never seemed to blink at the same time. On the other side sat the Crystalline Collective representatives. They looked like walking diamonds, their bodies made of some kind of living crystal that rang like bells when they moved. Their leader, Harmonic 7th Echo, sparkled under the lights like a disco ball. Maya took her place at the small human section, which felt more like the kids' table at Thanksgiving dinner. She opened her data pad and started the translation program, watching as alien words turned into English and back again. The human delegation was small. Ambassador Patricia Cole sat in the center, trying to look important even though everyone knew humans were just there because the rules said they had to be. Next to her sat Dr. Kevin Park, the science advisor who spent most meetings playing games on his tablet. And then there was Chuck Norris. Chuck was old now, over 200 years thanks to the life extension treatments, but he still looked like he could break a mountain in half with his bare hands. His hair was white as snow and his face had more lines than a road map, but his eyes were sharp as broken glass. The aliens had made him Earth's special security advisor, mostly as a joke, thinking it was funny that humans still believed in their old action heroes. They had no idea what a mistake. That was Maya watched Chuck as the meeting began. While everyone else focused on the fancy speeches and diplomatic double talk, Chuck's eyes moved around the room like a hawk watching for mice. He saw everything, every gesture, every facial expression, every tiny movement that others missed. Ambassador Cole stood up and gave a speech about peace and cooperation that Maya had helped write. It was full of big words and pretty phrases that meant nothing. The kind of speech politicians gave when they wanted to sound smart without actually saying anything. Crix Tal 9 responded with his own speech. The translation program turned his words into English, but Maya noticed something strange. The program was working perfectly, but something felt wrong. The Zephyrian's body language didn't match his words. His forearms moved in patterns that reminded Maya of the war dances she had studied in school. She started paying closer attention to the micro-expressions on Crix Tal 9's face. The way his eyes narrowed when he talked about peace. The way his skin shifted to darker colors when he mentioned cooperation. The way his breathing changed when he spoke about the future. Maya had spent years studying alien behavior patterns. It was her job to understand not just what aliens said, but what they meant. And what she was seeing now made her stomach feel like she had swallowed ice cubes. The crystalline representative began speaking, their voice sounding like wind chimes in a storm. Maya half listened to the translation while keeping her eyes on the Zephyrians. That's when she noticed it. Every time Harmonic 7th Echo mentioned reducing military forces, Crix Tal 9's skin would flash a quick pattern of dark blue and red. Maya knew that pattern. She had seen it in her research files. It was the Zephyrian equivalent of a human smiling while planning to stab someone in the back. Her heart started beating faster. She looked around the room at all the important people from dozens of worlds, ambassadors, generals, scientists, and politicians, all of them listening to pretty words about peace while completely missing the real message being sent. The Zephyrians weren't here to make peace. They were here to set up something terrible. Maya felt a familiar nervous habit kicking in. When she was stressed or thinking hard, She would tap her chin 3 times with her index finger. It was something she had done since she was a little girl, back when her grandmother told her stories about their ancestors and the secret signals they used to help escaped slaves find freedom. Tap, tap, tap. She did it without thinking, her finger hitting her chin in the same rhythm her grandmother had taught her meant danger coming fast. Nobody in the room noticed. The aliens were too busy with their speeches. The human delegation was too busy trying to look important. The security guards were too busy watching for obvious threats. But Chuck Norris saw it. His old eyes locked onto Maya's face for just a moment. She saw something change in his expression. A tiny shift that told her he understood, that he remembered their conversation from months ago when she had mentioned her grandmother's stories about the Underground Railroad and the secret codes people used to warn each other. Chuck's face went back to its normal blank expression, but Maya knew he was now watching everything with even sharper focus. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone else knew that something was very, very wrong. The peace talks continued with more speeches and more polite lies. But now 2 humans in the room knew they were sitting in the middle of something that could destroy everything they had ever cared about. The peace talks dragged on for another 4 hours. Maya sat through endless speeches about cooperation and friendship while her mind raced with what she had seen. Every time she looked at Crixtal 9, she noticed more signs that made her skin crawl. The way he held his upper arms when talking about reducing weapons. The way his eyes tracked the security cameras when he thought no one was looking. The way his breathing changed when other ambassadors mentioned their homeworld defenses. When the session finally ended, Maya packed her data pad with shaking hands. The other humans filed out of the room, talking about dinner plans and whether the hotel had decent coffee. They had no idea they might have just watched the planning stages of the biggest massacre in galactic history. Chuck walked past her table without looking at her, but he dropped something small next to her elbow, a piece of paper folded so tiny it looked like lint. Maya palmed it without thinking and slipped it into her pocket. She waited until she was back in her small quarters before reading it. The note was written in Chuck's careful handwriting. Observation. Deck C. 20 minutes, come alone. Maya changed out of her formal clothes and into a simple blue jumpsuit. She walked through the station's corridors, trying to look casual while her heart hammered against her ribs. Observation Deck C was on the outer ring of the station, where tourists usually came to look at the stars. At this time of night, it would be empty. Chuck was waiting for her by the huge window that showed the curve of Earth below them. The planet looked peaceful from up here, with its blue oceans and white clouds. Maya had trouble believing that something terrible might be coming for it. You saw it too, Chuck said without turning around. His voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute certainty. The body language doesn't match the words, Maya said. Everything about Crixtal 9 screams deception, but it's subtle. Most humans wouldn't catch it, and other alien species read body language completely different from us. Chuck nodded. I've been watching him for 3 days. Every private moment, every unguarded second. He's not here to make peace. Maya moved to stand next to him at the window. It's worse than that. I think this whole peace conference is a setup, a way to get all the major powers in one place while they prepare something terrible. Tell me what you've seen. Maya took a deep breath. The Zephyrians are natural mimics. They can copy other species' communication styles almost perfectly. That's why they've been so successful in wars. They can pretend to be friends right up until they stick a knife in your back. She pulled out her data pad and showed Chuck the file she had been studying. I've been tracking diplomatic communications for the past 2 months. Every major council world has been receiving messages about reducing military readiness for the peace celebration. Ships being recalled from border patrols. Defense systems being powered down for maintenance. Celebration festivals being planned that will have millions of people gathered in open spaces. Chuck's jaw tightened. They're setting up targets. Exactly. And the timing is perfect. There's a galaxy-wide celebration planned for 3 days from now. The Festival of Harmony. Every major world will be having parades and gatherings. Military forces will be celebrating instead of defending. Maya scrolled through more data. But here's the really scary part. The communications aren't coming from official Zephyrian channels. They're coming from what look like council administrative Offices. The Zephyrians have been impersonating council bureaucrats using our own communication networks to convince everyone to lower their guard. Chuck studied the data with eyes that had seen more battles than most people had nightmares. How long have they been planning this? At least 6 months, maybe longer. They've been incredibly patient, building trust, making small requests that seemed reasonable. A few ships moved here for maintenance, a defense grid powered down there for upgrades, all perfectly normal-sounding requests. Until you add them, all up, Chuck said grimly. Then it becomes the perfect storm. Every major world in the council will be defenseless at exactly the same time. Maya felt sick just saying it. And they're going to use humanity's communication networks to coordinate the attack. Chuck turned to look at her. What do you mean? Humans built most of the communication infrastructure that connects the council worlds. We're good at making things work together, even when they shouldn't. Our networks are now the backbone of galactic communication. If the Zephyrians can hijack our systems, they can coordinate attacks across hundreds of worlds simultaneously. The old warrior was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the stars. How many people are we talking about? Maya had run the numbers. She didn't want to say them out loud. Conservative estimate? 50 billion dead in the first hour. Maybe twice that if they target the right population centers. Chuck's hands clenched into fists. We have to warn someone. Who? The Council Security. Force reports to Administrator Veltox Prime, who's been asking for reduced patrols all month. The Diplomatic Corps thinks this peace conference is the greatest achievement in galactic history. The military leaders are all preparing for the celebration. Maya pulled up another file. I tried running this through the official channels yesterday. Filed a report with the human embassy. They told me I was being paranoid and that humans needed to stop looking for conspiracies everywhere. Because we're the new kids, Chuck said. Nobody takes us seriously. Exactly. We've been in the council for less than 50 years. Every other species has been here for centuries or millennia. They think we're primitive, paranoid, and unreliable. Even when we're right, they don't listen. Chuck was quiet again, but Maya could see his mind working, the gears turning behind those sharp eyes. There's something else, Maya said. I think I know why they wanted this peace conference here, on the station orbiting Earth. Why? Because Earth is the communication hub. If they can take control of our networks from here, they can send attack orders to every Zephyrian cell in the galaxy at the same time. The peace conference isn't just cover for their plan. It's the command center. Chuck nodded slowly, which means we're sitting right on top of the biggest military operation in galactic history. And we're the only ones who know about it, Maya said. 2 humans that nobody will believe, with less than 72 hours to save billions of lives. Chuck looked at her with something that might have been a smile. Good thing humans are known for doing impossible things. Maya felt a tiny spark of hope. You have a plan? I'm working on it. But first I need to know everything you've learned about their communication methods. Every detail, no matter how small. Maya nodded and opened her files. Then we better get started. We have a lot of work to do. Maya and Chuck spent the next 6 hours in her small quarters, planning like their lives depended on it. Because they did. And so did the lives of 50 billion other people across the galaxy. Maya had spread her research across every surface. In the room, data pads, printed reports, and handwritten notes covered her bed, desk, and floor. Chuck sat in the corner, reading through intelligence reports while cleaning a knife that seemed to appear from nowhere. The key is the communication network, Maya said, pointing to a diagram on her wall screen. The Zephyrians need our human-built systems to coordinate their attack, but that's also their weakness. Chuck looked up from his knife. How so? Humans designed these networks to be flexible. We built in backdoors and override codes because we knew other species might need to use them in ways we never thought of. Every human who helped build the system has access codes that can shut down or redirect communications. Maya pulled up a list of names on her data pad. There are 47 humans working in communication roles across the galaxy. Engineers, technicians, system administrators. Most of them don't even know how much power they have. But you do, Chuck said. I helped design the translation protocols. I know which humans have the highest level access. Maya highlighted several names. Jake Morrison runs the communication hub for the Outer Rim territories. Lisa Chen manages the deep space relay stations. Alex Rodriguez oversees the military communication networks. Chuck studied the list. Can you contact them without the Zephyrians knowing? Maya smiled for the first time in hours. That's where being human comes in handy. We have something no alien species can copy or understand. What's that? Human culture, sports, movies, music, family jokes, childhood memories. Things that translation software can't handle because they don't make logical sense. Maya started typing on her datapad. I'm going to send messages that look like normal human chatter. Personal updates, family news, casual conversation. But hidden inside will be the real information. She showed Chuck what she was working on. A message to Jake Morrison that looked like a casual note from an old friend. Hey Jake, hope you're doing well out there. Mom's recipe for apple pie still isn't working right. Need to adjust the temperature by 50 degrees and cut the time in half. Also thinking about that baseball game we watched last year. Remember how the home team won in the 9th inning with a surprise play? Take care, Maya. Chuck raised an eyebrow. Apple pie? Code for communication systems. Temperature and time are the coordinates for the Zephyrian command frequencies. The baseball reference tells him to prepare for a surprise attack that will try to use his networks. And if the Zephyrians intercept it? Maya grinned. They'll think it's typical human nonsense. Aliens have been complaining for years that humans waste communication bandwidth on meaningless personal chatter. They expect us to talk about food and sports and family. Chuck nodded approvingly. Smart. What about the rest of the plan? Maya's expression turned serious. That's where you come in. While I'm building our communication network, you need to get inside the Zephyrian operation. We need to know exactly when and how they plan to attack. I've been watching their security patterns for 3 days, Chuck said. They're good, but they have one major weakness, which is they think humans are harmless. Their guards watch for other Zephyrians and for the high-tech threats they understand. They don't expect a 200-year-old human to be capable of anything dangerous. Chuck stood up and moved to the window. Even at his age, he moved like a cat, silent and deadly. Their command center is in the diplomatic section 3 levels down from the conference rooms. High security, but designed to keep out alien threats, not human ones. Maya felt a chill. You're going to break in there alone? I've done worse things with less backup. Chuck's voice was calm, like he was talking about the weather. But I'll need a distraction. Something that will pull their attention, away from the command center. Maya thought for a moment. The peace conference continues tomorrow with the signing ceremony. Every important person in the galaxy will be watching. If something went wrong with the translation systems, it would cause chaos. Can you make that happen? Easily. I can introduce errors that will make it look like the translation software is having random glitches. Nothing dangerous, just embarrassing mistakes that will have diplomats scrambling to fix the problem. Chuck smiled, and Maya suddenly understood why bad guys in old movies used to run away when they saw that expression. How long do you need? Give me 2 hours of confusion, and I can get everything we need from their command center. Maya started working on her messages to the other humans, scattered across the galaxy. Each message had to be different, personal, and completely innocent-looking, while carrying vital tactical information. She sent Jake Morrison the apple pie message. To Lisa Chen, she wrote about her cousin's wedding plans, with details about flowers and decorations that actually described Zephyrian ship movements. To Alex Rodriguez, she complained about her apartment's heating system, using repair codes that translated to military frequencies and attack patterns. One by one, she reached out to humans across space. Engineers who maintained communication, relays, technicians who kept the networks running, military personnel who could access defense systems. Each message was crafted to look like typical human social chatter, while carrying the information they needed to save the galaxy. Chuck prepared his own plan. He studied the layout of the diplomatic section, memorizing guard rotations and security protocols. He identified the best entry points and escape routes. Most importantly, he figured out how to move through areas designed for alien body types, without triggering sensors calibrated for non-human threats. "There's one more thing," Maya said as she finished the last message. "Even if we stop the attack, we need proof. Evidence that will convince the council that this really happened." "I'll get it," Chuck said. "Hard data, recorded conversations, battle plans, whatever it takes." Maya looked at the list of humans she had contacted. "Do you think they'll understand? These people don't know me. They're getting strange messages from someone claiming there's a massive conspiracy." "They're human," Chuck said simply. "When push comes to shove, humans look out for each other. They'll figure out that something is wrong, and they'll act." Maya hoped he was right. In less than 48 hours, the Festival of Harmony would begin across the galaxy. Billions of people would gather in celebration, completely unaware that they were walking into the biggest trap in galactic history. But now, for the first time since she had noticed Crix Tal 9's deceptive body language, Maya felt like they had a real chance. Humans might be the newest members of the Galactic Council, but they had something the older species had forgotten: the ability to adapt, improvise, and work together when everything was falling apart. The countdown had begun. The next morning came too fast. Maya barely slept, spending most of the night getting responses from humans across the galaxy. Jake Morrison had replied first, his message hidden inside a complaint about bad weather on his station. "Storm coming in fast, Maya. Already adjusting all the equipment. Thanks for the heads up about the temperature problems." Lisa Chen had sent back what looked like gossip about her co-workers, but actually contained detailed information about ship movements near her relay stations. Alex Rodriguez wrote about his daughter's school project, with homework details that were really tactical plans for securing military networks. By sunrise, Maya had heard from 31 of the 47 humans on her list. Every single one had understood the hidden message and was already taking action. Some were subtle, making small adjustments to communication protocols that would disrupt Zephyrian coordination. Others were more direct, quietly alerting human security personnel who could be trusted. The signing ceremony was scheduled to begin at noon, Galactic Standard Time. Maya arrived early to set up her translation equipment, knowing that in 2 hours she would deliberately sabotage it to give Chuck his distraction. The conference room was even more crowded than the day before. News crews from dozens of worlds had set up cameras. Diplomatic staff rushed around making last-minute preparations. Everyone was excited to witness the historic peace agreement that would end 2 centuries of war. Maya watched Crix Tal 9 enter with his delegation. The Zephyrian ambassador looked calm and confident, like someone who knew exactly how the day would unfold. His skin patterns were stable, showing none of the stress colors that Maya had learned to recognize. He was ready for whatever was coming. Chuck entered with the human delegation, moving like any other elderly advisor. But Maya noticed how his eyes cataloged every security guard, every exit, every potential weapon in the room. He gave her the tiniest nod, so small that anyone else would have missed it. The ceremony began with speeches from the council leadership. Maya let her translation program run normally, waiting for the right moment. She needed the chaos to start, when Chuck was in position but before the Zephyrians could react. At 11:47 a.m., Maya saw Chuck excuse himself from the human delegation. He walked toward the restrooms, moving slowly like an old man with a weak bladder. But Maya knew he was heading for the maintenance access that would take him to the diplomatic section. She waited 3 more minutes, then activated the virus she had planted in the translation system. The first sign of trouble was small. The crystalline representative was talking about friendship and cooperation, but the translation came out as recipes for crystalline soup. A few diplomats laughed, thinking it was a minor glitch. Then things got worse. The Zephyrian ambassador's speech about peace and unity was translated as a detailed description of mating rituals. The council president's remarks about galactic harmony came out as instructions for assembling furniture. Within minutes, the conference room was in chaos. Diplomats were shouting in their native languages, trying to figure out what was wrong. Technical staff rushed to fix the translation systems. Security guards moved to secure the area, thinking someone might be trying to sabotage the peace process. Maya played her part perfectly, looking confused and frustrated as she pretended to debug the system. "I don't understand what's happening," she said to anyone who would listen. "The software was working fine yesterday." 3 levels below, Chuck was having his own problems. The Zephyrian command center was more heavily guarded than he had expected. 2 guards stood outside the main entrance, their 4 eyes constantly scanning the corridor. More guards patrolled the area on regular schedules, but Chuck had been doing this for over 200 years. He found a ventilation shaft that the aliens had dismissed as too small for their species. For a human, even an old one, it was just tight enough to be uncomfortable. He crawled through the shaft until he found a grate that opened into a storage room next to the command center. The room was full of equipment that looked like a cross between computers and art projects. Zephyrian technology always looked organic, like it had grown instead of being built. Chuck could hear voices through the thin wall. He pressed a listening device against the surface and activated the translation circuit. The conversation made his blood run cold. "Phase 1 begins in 18 hours, one voice said. "All communication networks will be under our control by then." "What about the human system?" another voice asked. "Already compromised. Their primitive security is no match for our infiltration programs. When we activate the attack protocol, every human communication hub will become a weapon against their own people." Chuck recorded everything, using equipment so small and advanced that it would have seemed like magic to someone from his original time period. But he needed more than just voices. He needed visual proof. Moving carefully, he found a maintenance panel that gave him access to the command center's main room. Through a crack in the panel, he could see a dozen Zephyrians working at control stations. Screens showed star maps with attack routes marked in red, ship deployment schedules, target lists that included every major population center in the council. But what made Chuck's hands shake with rage was the casualty estimates. The Zephyrians weren't just planning to attack military targets. They were going to hit schools, hospitals, residential areas. They wanted to break the spirit of their enemies by killing as many innocent people as possible. Chuck took pictures of everything, using a camera so quiet it made no sound at all. He documented battle plans, troop movements, and target lists. Evidence that would prove to the entire galaxy what the Zephyrians really intended. Then he heard something that changed everything. "The human girl is becoming a problem," Crixtal 9's voice said. "She has been asking too many questions about our communications. Our intelligence suggests she may have discovered our true purpose. Should we eliminate her?" Another voice asked. "Not yet. Her death would raise suspicions, but after the attack begins, she will be among the first casualties. Make sure of it." Chuck felt the familiar cold rage that had made him legendary. They were talking about killing Maya, the brilliant young woman who had figured out their plan and was trying to save billions of lives. The woman who had trusted him with her discovery and worked with him to find a solution. That was their mistake. Chuck activated a small device that would download the entire contents of the Zephyrian computer system. While it worked, he planted several surprises of his own. Viruses that would activate when the Zephyrians tried to begin their attack. Backdoors that would let Maya and the other humans take control of their own systems. But most importantly, he planted a message that would be broadcast on every Zephyrian frequency when their attack began. A message that would tell the galaxy exactly who was responsible and what they had planned. The download finished just as Chuck heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Time to go. He moved back through the ventilation shaft, carrying enough evidence to expose the biggest conspiracy in galactic history. Above him, Maya was still pretending to fix the translation system, while diplomats argued about the mysterious technical problems. She had no idea that 3 levels below, Chuck had just gathered the proof they needed to save the galaxy. But she was about to find out that the Zephyrians knew exactly who she was and what she had been doing. The translation chaos lasted exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes. Long enough for Chuck to finish his mission and return to the conference room without anyone noticing he had been gone. Maya had restored the system gradually, making it look like she had solved a complex technical problem. But as the diplomats settled back into their seats, Maya noticed something that made her stomach drop. Crixtal 9 was looking directly at her. Not the casual glance of someone annoyed by technical difficulties, but the focused stare of a predator who had found his prey. The Zephyrian ambassador's skin patterns had changed. Where before they had been calm blues and greens, now they showed the dark reds and purples that Maya had learned meant danger and aggression. He knew. Somehow he had figured out that she was responsible for more than just translation problems. Chuck caught her eye from across the room and gave her a tiny hand signal. 3 fingers against his leg, then 2, then 1. The old military code for get ready to run. The peace signing ceremony continued, but Maya could feel the tension building like electricity before a storm. Crixtal 9 signed the treaty with great ceremony, his 4 hands moving in patterns that looked like celebration to everyone else. But Maya saw the micro-expressions that revealed his true feelings, the slight curl of his mouth that meant satisfaction, the eye movements that meant soon. As soon as the ceremony ended, Maya started packing her equipment. She needed to get back to her quarters and activate the final phase of their plan. The human network was ready. Chuck had the evidence they needed. Now they just had to survive, long enough to use it. She was halfway to the door when 2 Zephyrian security guards stepped into her path. They were big, even for their species, with skin patterns that screamed military training. "Dr. Washington," one of them said, his voice perfectly polite. "Ambassador Crixtal 9 would like to speak with you privately." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm sorry, but I have work to finish. Perhaps tomorrow?" "The ambassador insists," the second guard said. His hand rested on what looked like a ceremonial staff, but Maya knew was actually a weapon capable of stunning a human in seconds. She looked around the room, hoping to catch Chuck's attention, but he was gone, vanished like smoke, probably already putting the final pieces of their plan into motion. Maya had no choice. She followed the guards through corridors she had never seen before, deeper into the diplomatic section. They stopped at a door marked with Zephyrian symbols that her translation implant couldn't read. Inside was a room that looked more like an interrogation chamber than an office. Crixtal 9 sat behind a desk that seemed designed to make visitors feel small and helpless. His skin was now solid black with red edges, the Zephyrian equivalent of barely controlled rage. "Sit down, Dr. Washington," he said. His voice was still polite, but underneath was the promise of violence. Maya sat in the chair across from him, her mind racing through possible escape plans. None of them seemed likely to work. "You have been very busy," Crixtal 9 said, "sending messages to humans across the galaxy, creating problems with translation systems, making trouble for people who only want peace." "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya said. The Zephyrian laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Please do not insult my intelligence. We have been monitoring human communications for months. Your little coded messages were quite clever, but not clever enough." He activated a holographic display that showed transcripts of every message Maya had sent. Her coded conversations with Jake Morrison, Lisa Chen, Alex Rodriguez, and dozens of others. All of it had been intercepted and decoded. The apple pie recipe was particularly amusing, Crixtal 9 said. "Though I must admit, it took our computers several hours to realize you were not actually discussing food." Maya felt the walls closing in around her. If the Zephyrians had been monitoring human communications, then they knew everything. Her network was compromised. The other humans were in danger. Their plan had failed before it even began. "However," the ambassador continued, "you have made one critical error. You assumed that humans were the only species capable of deception." The holographic display changed, showing new images that made Maya's blood turn to ice. Zephyrian ships were already moving toward their targets. Not in 18 hours, as Chuck had overheard, but right now, the attack was beginning early. "You see, Dr. Washington, we have known about your little conspiracy from the beginning. Every message you sent, every plan you made, every move your elderly friend made in our command center. We allowed it all to happen." Maya stared at the display, watching as red dots representing Zephyrian warships moved toward blue dots representing Council worlds. "Why?" Because you gave us something far more valuable than surprise. You gave us a list of every human in the galaxy with access to critical systems. Every person you contacted is now being arrested or eliminated. Your communication network is being destroyed piece by piece. The holographic display showed scenes from across the galaxy. Jake Morrison being dragged away by security forces on his station. Lisa Chen's relay being taken over by Zephyrian troops. Alex Rodriguez fighting desperately against attackers who had invaded his command center. Your species' tendency to trust each other so completely was your weakness. Crixtal-9 said, "Every human who received your messages believed them instantly. They made no effort to verify or question. They simply acted, making themselves easy targets for our forces." Maya felt tears running down her face as she watched her friends and colleagues being captured or killed across the galaxy. She had tried to save everyone and instead had led them all into a trap. But there is still one loose end to tie up, the ambassador said. He stood up, reaching for the weapon on his belt. The human who thought she was clever enough to outwit, a species that has been perfecting deception for 10,000 years. The door behind Maya exploded inward. Chuck Norris stepped through the smoking wreckage like death itself. His eyes were cold as winter stars, and he moved with the fluid grace of someone who had been killing enemies since before Maya was born. The two guards reached for their weapons. Chuck's hands moved faster than Maya could follow. Both guards hit the floor before their weapons cleared their holsters. Crixtal-9 raised his own weapon, but Chuck was already moving. The ambassador's forearms should have given him an advantage. Instead, they just gave Chuck more joints to break. The fight lasted exactly 7 seconds. When it was over, Crixtal-9 was unconscious on the floor, and Chuck was standing over him without a scratch. "Are you hurt?" Chuck asked Maya. She shook her head, still in shock. "How did you find me?" "I've been tracking you since you left the conference room. The real question is whether you're ready to save the galaxy." Maya looked at the holographic display, still showing Zephyrian forces moving toward their targets. "It's too late. They used our own plan against us. The attack has already begun." Chuck smiled, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Maya felt hope. "No, it hasn't. What you're seeing is what they wanted you to see. The real attack doesn't begin for another 16 hours. He activated a device that looked like a cross between a phone and a weapon. While they were busy monitoring your coded messages, I was sending some of my own. Every human you contacted received 2 sets of instructions. The obvious ones that the Zephyrians could intercept, and the real ones hidden in places they would never think to look." Maya stared at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean your grandmother's Underground Railroad codes weren't the only secret language humans developed. I spent 60 years in special operations before I became a movie star. I know ways to hide messages that no alien computer can decode." The device in Chuck's hand began broadcasting on every frequency in the galaxy. Maya's own voice came through the speakers, but it was saying things she had never said. "This is Dr. Maya Washington with an emergency. Broadcast to all council worlds. The Zephyrian Empire has launched a coordinated attack on civilian targets across the galaxy. Repeat, this is not a drill. The peace treaty is a deception." Chuck had somehow edited her voice recordings to create a perfect warning message. As it broadcast, Maya could see responses coming in from across the galaxy, not from the humans who had been captured, but from the ones who had been waiting for the real signal. "The Zephyrians made the same mistake everyone else does," Chuck said. "They underestimated what humans can do when we work together." On the holographic display, the picture was changing. Council defense forces were powering up across the galaxy. Ships were moving to intercept Zephyrian attackers. The surprise was gone, and with it, the aliens' advantage. Maya watched as the tide of battle turned. Zephyrian forces found themselves facing prepared defenses instead of helpless targets. Their carefully planned attack was falling apart. "How long have you been planning this?" Maya asked. Chuck helped her to her feet. "Since the moment I saw you tap your chin 3 times. I knew we couldn't trust anyone else, so I made sure we had a backup plan for our backup plan." Together, they watched as the last of the Zephyrian attack forces were defeated or surrendered. The galaxy was safe. and humanity had proven that sometimes the newest members of a group could teach the oldest ones a thing or two about survival. Maya looked at Chuck with new respect.